Let's make sure the sound is working. Oh, we're on. Okay. Hi, Bear. What's up? Okay. Hey guys, what's up? It's Dean. Welcome to Manful Yoga. It's Wednesday. It's about 12 p.m. Central Time. Or what time is it, Edward? Like, it is 12. It is 12. All right, cool. So again, every Wednesday we do this at 12 p.m. Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and on Instagram. What up, Instagram? What up, Facebook? What up, YouTube? So, and every week we go through some new exercises, a new workout routine, or some specific focus that you can immediately implement into what you're already doing with your workouts, or use it to make your workouts better. Apply it as yoga knowledge to what you're doing. So this week, I decided that I could make a routine focused on people with shoulder injuries. The reason why I'm making this is because this happens very often. Shoulder injuries are really common. It's common because people lack shoulder mobility, people have poor posture, and this results in shoulder injuries very often. So when you're injured, it's tempting to say, well, I'm injured, I'll just wait until I'm healthy to work out. But the reality is that there are still tons of exercises that you can do even while you're injured. So I'm going to show you a few things that you can do even while your shoulder is injured. And I do want to say that if you're doing any of this and your shoulder does start to hurt or whatever is wrong with it starts to come up again, then you want to back off immediately. But the main point of what we want to do is I'm going to show you exercises that don't use your arms. So right now my left shoulder is kind of giving me some trouble. Last week I was a little sick and I did too much mobility work on it. So I was doing too much foam rolling and too much lacrosse balling on it because I was rehearsing for a new DVD that we're making. This is really far off, but we're making routines for that now. And I just ended up doing too much mobility work on my shoulder, and it damaged my rotator cuff. So I know what it feels like. I know what to do with it now because it's happened to me so many times that I decided it'd be helpful to share with you what I do when this happens. So by the way, and if you're looking for if you're curious what rotator cuff pain feels like, if you have trouble putting on a shirt, so if you're putting on a jacket or you're putting on a shirt, if you have trouble lifting your arms overhead like this, so just bringing your arms straight overhead like this, or reaching out to the side like this, and you feel kind of a sharp pain in the back of your armpit, in your upper back, that is most likely rotator cuff pain. And when that happens, you want to make sure that you're avoiding lifting your arms overhead. So we don't want to do anything like this, right? We don't want to bring anything like arms out to the sides. And we definitely want to avoid any sort of pushing motion. So any sort of lifting or pushing motion, so any sort of overhead press, any sort of push-up, planks, a forearm plank, any of that you should not be doing when you have a rotator cuff injury. So there are some things to avoid. And you also want to make sure that you're avoiding things like any activity with your arm at all. So this includes just daily tasks like opening up your car door or reaching up to put something back in a cupboard or washing dishes. You want to use your non-injured arm as much as possible, because if you do use your arm and you do feel slight twinges of pain every now and then while you're doing it, that's a good sign that you are delaying the recovery. You keep on, basically you're repeatedly injuring that injured shoulder. So we want to avoid movement with the arm and avoid any weight or any sort of work at all with that injured arm. All right, so let's get into the exercises. Do I have any comments yet other than people saying, shut up and do the exercises already? Nobody? All right, cool. So one of the reasons why shoulder injuries happen, in addition to lack of shoulder mobility, is actually a lack of hip strength and a lack of hip mobility. So one of the things I like to do that's super simple, that doesn't require your arms at all, we're just going to do some boat pose work. So first thing you can do, you're going to sit upright as possible. So you're sitting kind of forward on your sit bones like this. Get a nice upright position. Just keep your arms relaxed at your sides. Remember, we're not using the shoulders. And we're gonna do one leg at a time here. So I want you to bring your right leg in, plant your right foot about 1.5 feet away from your hips, and then lift your left leg straight up so the toes are facing up. Lift your sternum up so you're pulling your ribs away from your hips, and try to make your back as flat as possible. We're gonna hold this for 30 seconds or up to a minute. And then you're gonna switch sides. So now I'm planting my left foot, bringing the right leg out. Again, sitting up nice and tall, making sure that I'm feeling this in my hip flexors and my core, not in my back, and then lifting that other leg. And again, I'm gonna hold this for 30 seconds, maybe up to a minute. And then I'm gonna combine these together, bring my feet in, like this, lift my knees up as much as possible, lift my sternum up, and then extend the legs so my knees are getting close to straight. And I want to keep a straight line with my back. So that involves putting the weight into my hip flexors as opposed to keeping it weighted back. And I'm using a lot of hip flexors to balance here and picking my chest up, thinking of lifting my knees. And I'm just going to maintain this for 30 seconds, maybe up to a minute. And again, keep the arms relaxed as much as possible. It's easy to, you can move your arms kind of like this, right? We're not really bringing the arms up overhead. It's really when we start to bring the arms overhead, or to shoulder level, straight out like this, or straight out to the side, that pain happens. So you can keep your arms at your sides. Just, again, avoid lifting, avoid pushing, and then relax. All right, so there's a couple things you can do on the ground for your core. Other things we can do, obviously we don't want to do any sort of weighted back squat or deadlift, but you can still do lunges, right? So you can, I like doing, a warrior one is something that I do every day. So I can go into a warrior one, right, which is basically a lunge hold. Back foot is out 45 degrees, pushing my back hip toward my front knee, keeping my ribs up, and I'm getting a nice hip stretch while working on hip strength. Squeeze my legs toward one another, so right leg squeezing back, left foot squeezing forward. I'm going to get a bit more inner thigh and core engagement that way. And again, usually I would bring my arms overhead for warrior one, but today I'm just going to keep my arms at my side. One thing I would do though is make sure that you're keeping your chest open. So you can still keep your arms at your sides and pull your shoulder blades together, right? You don't have to stay slouched forward like this. You can still have good posture as long as that doesn't hurt. And we're going to hold here for a minimum of 30 seconds, up to 60 seconds, and then switch sides. And again, legs squeezing toward one another, feeling some nice opening through the hip, keeping my ribs up, so I'm working my lower body and my core here. Again, my arms aren't doing anything because I don't want to aggravate that shoulder injury, so I'm just letting my arms kind of hang out. By the way, if you're looking to do more surreptitious yoga, so if you're trying to do yoga more secretly in public and you don't want to lift your arms overhead or do a warrior, this is sometimes what I'll do if I'm waiting in line for something or if I'm at the airport and I don't want to appear conspicuous. I'll do yoga with my arms at my sides. So that's something else that you can do. And again, holding here for about a minute. Legs squeezing toward one another is going to add an inner thigh and a core strengthening element to it. All right, and then relax. One other thing you can easily do is squat or squat variations or hip hinges. All right, so we can do a squat hold. Just don't bring your arms out in front of you. Just let them relax down like this. And actually letting your arms kind of hang like this is really nice. And if you can see what I'm doing with my arms right now, I'm kind of just letting my arms hang and move in circles. This is called a shoulder pendulum or a scapula. Can't remember if it's a shoulder or scapula pendulum, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm allowing my rhomboids to relax and to release. And so this is nice just to do some distraction for your shoulders, which alleviates your shoulder joint. It'll just be a nice, easy way to stretch. Notice that I'm still keeping my back flat though, so I'm not rounding forward. I'm just hinging a lot. My back is still flat. I'm getting a stretch through my hamstrings as I'm doing this, and I'm also getting some good engagement through my glutes. I just want to avoid bringing my arms straight out in front of me because I don't want to lift my arms. You can also do a chair pose here, just a modified chair pose, right? So butt back, knees back, back flat. We're just not going to lift the arms. So pretty much what you normally do, just not lifting the arms. Okay, stand up. So there is one exercise that I found doesn't really bug my shoulders when my shoulder's injured. And so this is a scapular stability exercise. So instead of targeting my rotator cuff, I'm going to feel this almost exclusively in my traps, which is the middle of my back. You do want to be careful though, as you're getting down into the ground, you don't want to use that shoulder at all. So some things that you definitely don't want to be doing while you're injured with a shoulder injury are foam rolling, because you're going to end up using that arm to support your weight, and pushing and supporting your weight while you're in a prone position or chest facing the ground is one of the worst things you can do for your shoulder. So we don't want to do any sort of foam rolling, and we don't want to rest our hands on the ground and bear weight with our hands while we have a shoulder injury. But anyways, this one thing you can do. So we're going to get down to the ground, and you're going to pretty much just let your right arm really be relaxed here, or sorry, your injured arm, whatever it is, be really relaxed here as you're getting down. And you also, you want to make sure that you're not overly using the right arm. So if you're injured in your left arm, you shouldn't be doing curls with your right arm. You should just avoid upper body exercise until that other shoulder is healed, because otherwise you're going to create an imbalance in your upper body. So the one thing I do like to do when my shoulder's injured, I'll do these prone scapular exercises. So you've seen these before, but I'm just going to tuck my toes, keep my core engaged, keep my hips engaged, lift the knees, relax my forehead down, and then from here I'm just going to lift my arms up, thumbs facing the ceiling, and I'm just going to hold this for about 30 seconds, but only if it doesn't hurt. If I start to feel any sort of pain or any sort of tinging in my injured shoulder, I'm going to back off immediately. But this for me doesn't really feel, I don't feel pain here, and I've been doing this for the last few days and I don't feel pain, so that's why I'm doing it. It might be painful for you though, so just depending on how your shoulder feels, I would or would not do this. It depends on what's wrong with your shoulder. So for me, it's rotator cuff, and this focuses on traps, so I'm really not doing anything here. But for you, it might be different. So I can do like 30 seconds here, maybe 45 seconds. I wouldn't go much higher than that. And there's some other exercises that I can do on the ground and for prone scapular, but I'm not going to do them because they kind of focus on, they do start to recruit rotator cuff a little bit more. So like, for example, sometimes I'll do a T exercise like this and then lift my arms. For this, I do feel those muscles that I strained start to fatigue a little bit as I'm doing it. So I try not to do this for that long, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and I kind of back off because I know that it's targeting that injured area. Other one you can do, maybe arms at your sides, pull the shoulder blades together, push your arms up, or slowly lift your arms up. And again, we just want to go to the point where we don't feel any pain. So if you're doing this and you start to feel some pain in the shoulder, just relax it down and don't do it anymore. But those are some other exercises you can do. And then again, as we're getting back up, you want to make sure that you're just letting your injured shoulder not do anything. So I'm just going to use my right arm and my legs to get up. I'm going to kind of keep that shoulder tucked in and almost as if I had my arm in a sling, and then relax it. Other exercises that I like to do while I have an injured shoulder. All those core exercises I did on the ground, those are usually my go-to because they really don't use any shoulder, but they're really good for, they're very good for core strengthening. So I can get back down into my prone position, or sorry, into my seated position. I can do a seated leg here, right? So I can do a seated twist. I'm just not going to use my arms. So this turns this into much more of a core focused exercise, which is nice because the seated twist is actually supposed to be a core and hip exercise, but we often compensate for either hip weakness or core weakness or just laziness by using our arms to kind of crank open here. So this is a really nice opportunity to just focus on a seated twist with hip and core engagement. And then obviously doing the other side, trying not to use my arms to get into it. And this is a nice exercise for, again, the hip and core, but also I'm working on active mobility here. So normally I'd use my arms to get my foot into this position, but this gives me an opportunity to get this leg into position without using my arms. And again, applying that seated twist and trying to hold that. So the focus here is on my left hip, almost like I'm squeezing my left leg up, and then pushing down to my right foot, lifting my ribs up, and just lightly twisting toward the right. And again, I can hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. So those are just a few ideas of things that you can do. Again, we want to keep the arms at the sides. We don't want to do any sort of pushing exercise. And if you are doing some work on the ground, then you just want to make sure that you aren't using your hands or using your arms to get into position. It's a nice opportunity to work on active mobility, meaning that instead of using your arms to help you get into position, you're just using your leg strength to get there. So it's a nice alternative. If you can do a pigeon, pigeon is just a really useful stretch to do just to keep your back and your hips healthy. So the way to get into a pigeon, if your arm is injured, is kind of setting up like you're doing a pigeon, right? So knee slightly outside, right leg slightly bent. And then I'm just going to swing my left leg back, and I'm going to keep my arms kind of out in front of me like this. And then I'm just doing my best to get into that pigeon position without using my hands or bracing my weight with my arms. And this allows you to do pigeon. It's also good because it actually gets a deeper stretch. When you're not using your arms to support your body weight, all of that weight goes into your hips, which means you get better opening through your hips. And again, I'm trying not to cheat here, trying not to use my arms. So I'm just going to do this for, I like to hold pigeon for at least a minute. If you want to make it more challenging, then we're either going to move this heel up, maybe your ankle up, or we can crawl the knee back. And one of the things you want to watch out for is being conscious of movement when you're injured, because we have a tendency to react, right? We don't really think about our reactions when it happens instantaneously. So maybe you're thinking of reaching overhead to grab something, or something starts to fall. So you just need to be extra mindful of making sure that you're not lifting your arms overhead, or you're doing something that you would normally do with your arms. All right, then I'm going to switch sides. So I'm going to keep my arms in tight. Right, not using my arms to support my body weight. Maybe bringing the left leg now. So left knee slightly outside the hips. I'm going to crawl this right leg back. And I realize this is difficult, so I'm going to show you another variation you can do. But this is a really good exercise to try doing. If you can't quite get that leg back all the way, what you can do is just bring the knee up like this. And this is kind of more of a, what's called a deer pose, where your knee is up near the ankle. Cars are very popular right now, C-A-R-S. So if you want to try those, you can also do some hip lifts, right, like this. That is an exercise that you're not supposed to use your arms at all for. So just doing something like this, just lifting this leg off the ground, feeling this in the outer hip. And then if you can, and this is starting to open up, now we're going into that pigeon. Being careful with your knee, also not relaxing any weight in your arms as you're getting into this. And again, maybe doing a minute here in pigeon. All right, and go ahead and come out of that. Prone exercise, not prone, but on your back. There's tons of stuff you can do on your back, right? We can bring the arms straight out like this. If you need to move the arm, I would recommend doing passive movement, which means I would actually grab my arm, totally relax the muscles in the shoulder, and then just move this arm where I need it to go passively. That way I'm not using those muscles. But we can do twists here, right? We can do recline twists, which are just really nice for the back. Also a good core strengthener. We can do reverse crunches, so the legs coming straight out. You can do a hold here. We can do flutter kicks, right? If you want, you can do, I don't know what these are called, but legs wide and then legs together. Reverse crunch is actually bringing your knees in and then coming back out. We can do alternating leg levers, and this is good for hamstrings and also for core. But again, the point is here, we just want to keep the arms relaxed and not do anything with your arms. So you can, you can kind of be creative with this and figure out what you can and can't do. But the point is, just avoid putting any weight into your arms. We also got a bridge here, right? We can use a bridge. That way we're not using arms at all. Bridge is really good for your glutes, your back, and your core, also your hamstrings. As you're doing this, squeeze your heels toward your butt
That's going to add more hamstring engagement. So make sure you're not just pushing your hips up, but actually squeezing your heel toward your butt and making sure that your glutes and your hamstrings are engaged as well here. All right, and that's pretty much what I like to do when I'm injured with my shoulder. Again, it's just mostly leg work and core work, and I'm careful not to use this arm at all because I don't want to aggravate that injury and make my recovery longer. So other things you can do, you can always go for a walk. Walking is a good form of active recovery. You can do cold water immersion. So if you can get into cold water, that's a good way to just stress your body in a calculated way. So it's kind of like a workout. You know, just put your body into it just activates your body's fight or flight response. Again, exercise is all calculated stress on the body, and that's going to help to improve your recovery. That's going to help with circulation, and that's also going to help with a lot of things. Cold water immersion is fantastic. I highly recommend it. I try to do it a couple times a week. Yeah, and that's pretty much, those are just a few things. Again, main point is you don't want to aggravate that shoulder injury. Don't do anything where you're lifting your arms overhead. Don't do any sort of pushing exercises. And if you're going to be doing lower body or core exercises, just make sure that you aren't using your arms. Because even though the exercise isn't focused on your arms, just using your arms will aggravate that injury. So you want to avoid anything where your arm is pushing, pressing overhead. You can do a little bit of light pulling. Just a little bit of light pulling, and if it feels okay, you can also do some overhead hanging. Not your full body weight. So what I would do is I would go to the pull-up bar, I would grab my injured arm and I would just lift it up like this, right? I'm doing this totally passively, and then I would hold on to the bar, and then very, very lightly start to put a little bit of weight into the shoulders, just to help distract those muscles in the shoulder. But you don't want to be actually hanging with your full body weight. You just want to put a little bit of weight into your shoulders. And again, hanging or pulling is pretty much the only thing I would do with a shoulder injury, depending on what your injury is. Definitely avoid any pushing, definitely avoid any overhead pressing. So I hope that was helpful. Let's answer some questions.
You mentioned hip flexor tightness as a cause of shoulder pain.
Yeah.
Can the same be true for your lats?
Yeah, so hip flexor is, the reason why I mentioned that is because a lot of people don't think that your body is interconnected, right? So when we think of a shoulder injury, that's because we think that one of the muscles in the shoulder or the joint capital itself or the chest is tight. But really, when we have tight hips, that actually affects the shoulders as well. So when our hips are tight, that actually pulls on the opposite shoulder. So if my left shoulder is injured, it could be because of tightness in my right hip. And then, yeah, to answer your question, of course, your lats are connected to your shoulders, so lat tightness could be related to shoulder injury, and lat tightness can also lead to a lat tightness is indicative of a lack of shoulder mobility. So, yes, that is going to affect your shoulder health.
What's your advice with the YWT exercises for shoulder health?
YWT.
I'm assuming.
Oh, YWT. Oh yeah, totally. So if you're feeling fine and you're not injured, I would do those at least 3 times a week. I would honestly do those with every upper body workout that you're doing. So if you're doing any sort of pushing exercise, any sort of overhead press, any sort of pull up or pulling exercise, deadlift, anything like that, or even before a yoga workout, I would highly recommend doing those YWT exercises. Those prone scapular stability stabilizing exercises. They're really useful for activating the muscles in your shoulders, warming up your upper body, and making sure that you're avoiding injury in the shoulders.
And what could I do for lower back pain?
Lower back pain, work on your hip mobility, work on your core strength. So pretty much yoga. You want to work on a form of yoga that is helping to strengthen and improve mobility in your hips. So a lot of squat-like exercises, hip hinges, things like I showed at the beginning. So all of those exercises I showed will actually help with lower back pain because they're helping with hip mobility, they're helping with hip strength, they're helping with core strength, and they're helping with spinal mobility. So twisting, like I showed on my back, again, any sort of hip opening, but also hip strengthening. So a pose like this is called a warrior 1. This is going to help with back pain. One thing you want to avoid if you have back pain is a forward fold. So if you have back pain, do not do this. This is going to make your back pain worse. A lot of people think stretching relieves pain. Now, in a lot of cases, this is true. But when it comes to your back is usually tight and in pain because you're already doing too much stretching, because we're sitting down all the time. When you're sitting down all the time, your lumbar spine goes into extension, which means that it goes into flexion, which means that your vertebrae are becoming spaced apart, and that overstretching creates that back pain that we associate. It creates that back pain that all of us are very familiar with. So that's what creates that stiffness or that pain in the lower back. So you want to work on actually bending your back. We want to work on moving your spine, twisting from side to side, and we want to work on hip opening and hip strengthening to prevent back pain. Cool. All right. So I will also announce that right now I've just launched 3 new workout programs in the members area. We're going to be talking about these on the Manful Yoga blog, and I'll also be putting out some videos talking about these. But the program I want to talk about is called the Flexibility, Mobility, and Joint Health. Actually, I'm going to talk about that one later. But right now I want to talk about the Beginner's Yoga Strength for Resistance Training program. So this is a program I designed specifically for people who are lifting weights, who want to keep being able to lift weights, but who are starting to notice that weightlifting isn't as easy as it used to be. So for these people, you're probably feeling shoulder pain, you're probably feeling knee pain, you might be feeling back pain when you're doing your weightlifting exercises. And these guys, mostly this is because you're not focusing on your mobility. So you're not doing stretching, you're not doing exercises that challenge your end range of motion. So when you start working on mobility, those little aches and pains that you get when you lift will start to go away. You're going to recover more quickly, which means that you get stronger more quickly. And weightlifting and exercise in general is just going to feel a lot better because more mobility means more fluid movement. So for you guys, this program is called the Beginner's Yoga Strength for resistance training. And again, we're going to be working on mobility, but we're also going to be focusing on aspects of strength that you don't find in normal weight training. So we're going to be working on core strength. We're going to be working on hip strength. We're going to be working on upper back strength. Things that you should be doing but really aren't doing. And again, this is all just going to lead to improved performance in the weight room. You're going to be able to lift more weight. You're going to build muscle more quickly, and you're going to avoid aches, pains, and injuries and that kind of thing. So this is a really cool program that I put together. The workouts are only about 30 minutes. Some of them are as few as 20 minutes, and then some of them go up into the 35 or 40-minute range. But basically 30 minutes, 3 times per week, up to 5 times per week. And you can fit that into your existing program. You don't have to change a thing about what you're doing. You just have to start doing some yoga workouts. And within the first couple of weeks, you're going to start to notice some improvements in your lifting performance. So this is part of the members area, and we have open enrollment in the members area right now. It's this week only though, so you have to sign up by Monday, August 20th if you want to join. You can learn more at manfulyoga.com. Just go to the homepage, and right at the top of the page, there will be info to sign up for the members area. And again, that's going to get you access to this program, as well as 30 other programs and over 260 workouts. So this is where all the stuff that I do, all the social media that I do, all these videos that I do, they all lead to the members area. This is where I put all of my content. This is what we have this office for. This is why we film so much. We create an insane amount of content. We upload new workouts every week. We interact with our members daily. We have a very, very thriving community on Facebook, and people are sharing their photos and sharing their success stories. It's a very inspirational group, and it makes us feel like even though you're training online, you still have a community, you're still involved with other people. So it's just an incredible training resource, and we're only open this week for enrollment. So if you've been watching this for a while, if you're subscribed on YouTube, maybe you've been following some of the posts on Facebook, or you're starting to follow some of my posts on Instagram, this is the time to sign up. So again, just go to the website, manfulyoga.com, to learn more. And I think was there another question?
Kind
Or
of.
someone?
Let me see. So, are posture exercises good for helping the rounded result from shoulder issues?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, it's a question.
Question? Okay, cool. Yes.
Yeah, posture helps to fix posture problems. Yeah. So I have a program called the Posture Fix. Rounders, shoulders like this is typically a result of lack of shoulder. Well, actually, the rounded posture is a result of just sitting at it, looking awful. It also really damages, or it also really hurts your upper body performance, and it can increase your risk of injury in the shoulders. It does increase your risk of injury in your shoulders. And it also makes it so that exercises like even push-ups or overhead exercises get really difficult. So when you talk about improving your posture, what you want to be doing is stuff like back bending, right? So we want to be reversing what we're doing with poor posture. So we want to do back bending exercises. We want to work on strengthening the upper back with pulling exercises. We want to do those prone scapular stability exercises that I did on the ground earlier in this broadcast. And we also want to be working on shoulder mobility, so getting your arms behind you, right? So getting your arms behind you like this, doing some chest stretching, getting the arms overhead. So all of this stuff where we're getting the arms back, straight up, and straight back and down. All of that is going to help with improving your posture, but it takes sustained holds to really improve the posture. So a lot of people don't like the way that it feels because your body is weak in those positions. So it's not enough to just do like 1, right, 2, 3, or reps, or that looks ridiculous. But the point is, it's not enough just to do reps. You actually need to do a sustained hold, right, where you're holding upright like this, right? So we're holding a back bend for a long time, and we're starting to rebalance the body. We're starting to retrain the body to get into more of an upright position. Because think, we've spent 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours a day in that rounded position. It's not enough just to do 5 seconds of this. We have to hold it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and it has to be intense. And that's where yoga is going to come in. Yoga is unlike a lot of other exercises because we actually are holding those postures. We're getting into a back bend and holding it. You also want to complement that with strength training for your back. So we want to do pull-ups. We want to do rowing exercises. We want to do TRX rows. So getting a weight in front of you and pulling back, or getting a weight above you and pulling down. So that kind of stuff is all going to help with posture. And I do have a posture program for that. It's called the Posture Fix, and that's also available in the members area. That's also that's one of our more popular programs, and that's really cool, I think, because it breaks it up into 2 workouts. So you have a shorter 10 to 12-minute workout in the morning or in the evening, and then you have a longer 20 to 25-minute workout. So you're doing a little bit of posture work at the beginning of the day, maybe a little bit in the middle of the day, and then a bit more at the end of the day for your main workout. And that's really cool because you can also combine it with what you're already doing. So you don't have to stop lifting weights. If you're a runner, you don't have to stop running. So yeah, the Posture Fix is a really cool program. We've got a ton of great reviews on that, and that's part of the members area, which is open for enrollment this week. So you can learn more about that again at manfulyoga.com. All right, cool. So I'm going to be putting out a couple of blogs in the next few days with information on some new programs. So if you want to learn more about those programs, and again, if you want to sign up, it's just $1 to sign up, and then you can cancel your trial at any time. It's a 7-day trial. You get access to everything for $1, and then after that, your plan begins. We don't charge anybody for anything you don't want. So if you get in and for some reason you get charged and you don't like the members area and you want a refund, I'm happy to do refunds. So you really have nothing to lose. Again, it's $1 to sign up. And if you do 3 workouts per week, you're going to start noticing a difference in your body within the first 2 weeks. So it's really cool because it works quickly. You start to feel a difference almost immediately. And in addition to getting you in better shape, it's also going to make all of your other workouts better too. So it's just a really powerful, transformative practice. And we do it really focused on fitness. So if you're looking for fitness focus, if you're not into this for the spiritual reasons, or if you just want to learn a more anatomically correct or a more about the technique, then this is a great option. So, all right, cool. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Join me next week, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Time for another broadcast. And again, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube. Lots of workouts going out there every week if you're not already. And also check the Manful Yoga blog. We put out workouts there as well. So you can actually see a lot of full-length workouts on the Manful Yoga blog at manfulyoga.com/blog. And that's enough. So I'll see you guys later. If you're watching this at a later time, leave a comment. I will get to it as soon as I can.